Hello ladies and gents, in this video we will enable routing for our application. Currently our application consists of a single view, which is this app view here, and that is perfectly fine, but most of the times you will need to add more pages to your application and then be able to navigate between those. Currently we have an app control here, and then in the pages aggregation we have our page. So let's go ahead and move this page to its own view and then navigate to it via routing. I will simply copy everything from here and then create a new view named home.view.xml. Let's paste and first rename our controller to home, which we will create in a second. And it will contain only our page control. Let me remove the shell and the app and format this. We save and let's remove the page from our app view now. And inside our app view we will only have our shell and the app control. And I will also assign it an ID because we will need it soon. Let's name it app simply. And now let's create the controller for our new home view, home.controller.js. And I will again copy everything from our app controller and rename it to home. Now let's clean this app controller up. We don't need anything in here. It will just be empty. And we actually don't have to have controllers for every view, but I will just leave it here because we will need it later on. Let's also clean this up. And now instead of displaying our page directly inside our app hard-coded as we did before, we will use routing, which will take our home view and place it inside the pages aggregation of our app here. And for that, let's go to our manifest.json file. Not this one, here. And configure our routing. So we go to SAP UI5. And under models, for example, we create a new attribute named routing, which is an object. And first we create another object named config. And here we will have some attributes. First we need to specify the router class. And since we are using the app control from the M library here, we will use sap.m.routing.router. In another chapter, when we use another root control from the F library, we will use another router class as well. Then we have the type, which specifies the target type to be displayed. It can either be a view or a component. And in our case, it's a view, so we say view. Next we have the view type, and since all our views are XML, we specify XML here. Next we have the path, which will be the path of our views. So we start with our namespace, then the name of our app, product.list, and then the folder view. So this folder in which all our views reside. And next we have control ID, and that is the ID of our root control, and we set it here as app. So this will be named app. Then we have the control aggregation. And this is simply the aggregation in which our views will be put, and as I mentioned, it will be the pages aggregation of our app. Then we have transition, which is the default animation when routing between pages. Let's set it to slide, which is the default anyway. And lastly, we will set async to true, so the routes are loaded asynchronously for performance reasons. And after our configuration is done, then we will need to create some routes, which will be an array of objects. And for now we will have only one. First we need to specify a pattern, which will be the hash that will be added to the URL of our app. So if we go back to our app, which is empty now, it will be the hash that will be appended to the end of our URL. It could be something like /home or /edit, etc. And for our home view, we will leave it empty because we want it to be the first view we see when we end up in our application. Next, we need a unique name for our route, and I will call this home. And lastly, we need a target for our route, which will define what to display when the route pattern is matched. And we will create a target in a second. Let's name it target home instead of just home to avoid confusion. And after routes, finally we have targets, and it is an object, not an array. And let's copy this target home here. And first we need to assign it an ID. Let's say ID target home. And then we need the name of the view that is to be displayed, and it is the home view, so we say home without the extensions. And lastly, let's give it a level of 1, and the level is only used to determine the direction of the transition animation when navigating to or from a view, and it's only relevant for the slide and the flip animation we will see. It basically determines which way the view should slide or flip. Now let's save, and we have configured our router, but we need to initialize it before we can use it. And for that we go to our component.js. Now in our init function, after we call the parent init function, let's say initialize the router. Then we simply say this.getRouter and .initialize. Now if we save and check our application, we see that it's working as before, nothing's different. We can edit, etc. But under the hood, what's happening is when we end up at this URL, the hash, which is empty for now, matches our route hash, this one, the empty hash, and then it says okay, display this target, and it points us to the home view. And then this view is placed in the pages aggregation of our app here, and then we see this page on the screen. In another video we will inspect in detail what exactly happens under the hood when routing, but for now this should be enough. Thank you all for watching, and see you at the next video.